Welcome to Dave's Workshop and Garden Railway. Please share this video to spread the joy of live steam. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Back in 2011, I bought boiler shell material for Keith Bucklich's excellent Charles Loco design. I had also turned the wheels. But then I shelved the plan and went on to build the live diesel. Using the wheels on that locomotive. I now have two large-scale Penrhyn steam locos, and felt enthused to make another start on this fine Mainline loco. After checking my stock, I found one more unused steam pressure gauge. Years ago, I scanned and PDF'd Keith's excellent Garden Rail magazine, Building Charles' 8-part series, from which this side elevation is taken. I am building this loco to 1-inch scale. The drawings are pleasingly imperial, and to the scale of 5/8 of an inch to the foot. So, I divide the drawing dimensions by 0.625 to get the new 1/12 scale dimension. I seem to start a loco build by turning the wheels. No longer having access to a bandsaw, I cut the wheel blanks the hard way. I used to borrow a cut-off bandsaw at work. This time I used a parting tool in the lathe, down to about 1-inch diameter, and then hacksawed the remainder. This is 60 mm diameter, free-cutting mild steel. It was the first time to use the back gearing of the lathe in a long while. I had nearly forgotten how. My target was to produce 1 wheel blank per day, but missed a day. It turned out to be a rather pleasurable operation. The parting was aided by syringing in cutting oil, using the trusty lubricator draining syringe. And, with an 18 TPI hacksaw blade, the 1-inch was easy to cut, again with cutting oil. This is the front face of the wheel, and this recess will be painted black. I bored the axle holes to true them up before reaming.
Boring for the axle holes. Nice and true.
The holes are reamed 5/16 diameter.
Here we go, and turn off. I have to turn off my camera hand. Withdraw stationary. There we go.
4 finish-turned wheels. The wheel-turning mandrel wasn't running true in the 3-jaw chuck, so I used the 4-jaw. Even with the overhang, the setup was rigid enough for the 3 mm deep LGB flange forming. The painted wheels resting in the drawer. Whilst looking at my 1.6 mm steel sheet, with a view to cutting out frames, I remembered all those years ago, that I had already got steel strip in for them, and there it was, oiled up on my stock shelf in the garage. 2-inch wide by 1/8 thick. Here we are setting up one side frame to mill the end face square. Some milling cuts had to be done in stages, as the vise is only about 2 inches wide, and the workpiece needs support. The distinctive radius at the rear of the frame. The radius was generated by manual CNC-ing, by small steps, and trigonometry. Using my trusty 1980, 3/8-inch end mill. Generating the large radius at the front end of the frames. Moving the cutout to the front axle position. The finished front cutout. The side frames and buffer beams. I filed the radii on these. I closely studied pictures of Charles to work out axle box dimensions. I thought I had better make proper axle boxes, even though they may not be sprung and fixed in place. These are steel blocks for the axle box horns. Milling the axle box slots in the clamped together frames. The horns have already been milled. I had to mill close to the vise, so the frames needed moving for each axle box milling. Lots of holes drilled for all the fixing screws. Drilling through the horns into the frames, so that they will fit. Horns fitted, but they require further milling. Finish milling the axle box slots. Axle box slots completed. These 1/8 thick frames are a lot more work than my usual 1.6 mm steel frames. Re-cutting the distinctive front cutout to better match pictures of the original. It was not hard to do as I had retained the original calculations. Before and after, I think it looks better. The clamping setup for milling the central slot. Slot rough milled out. Manual CNC-ing the radii of the central slot. Here is the setup with the dial indicator for backlash-free indication. Here are the calculations. I used a maximum increment of 0.010 inch or 0.25 mm. Fly cutting the cab cutout, after hacksawing. The first axle box keeper in position. These stop the axle boxes falling out when the loco is lifted. Milling out the pockets for the keepers. 1/8 inch steel for these axle box keepers. The axle box keepers are countersink screwed to the horns. The square hole is for the axle box pushrod, to transmit force to the leaf spring. I really like the fit of these keepers. Drilling through the backplate into the axle box for screw fixing. Milling down the back plate width. The 4 complete axle boxes. I used separate backplates due to not having brass stock of sufficient width for the whole axle box. The first cosmetic leaf spring on its connecting rod. Fixed in position. Take a look at the following video on how I made these. With different materials, these could be operational leaf springs. This is my mass production method for making the 3 remaining leaf spring assemblies, after proving the first. I used 0.9 mm copper for the leaves as it was what I had in stock. And it makes exactly the right amount of leaves, from my studying the pictures of Charles. I tried to use all the right terminology in the captions. The frames are held together by brass angle pieces and 8 BA screws. I tried to use the same number of holes as on Charles. Axles in, ready for wheels. 5/16 inch axles, or very nearly 8 mm. Wheels in, wheel spaces between them. Testing the clearances on the line. Some easing will be necessary. This collar keeps the loco weight off the springs to get the ride height just right. On the shelf, Ready for progress.